Hello, I'm Elaine Salazar, president of Ampersand Art Supply. We manufacture wood panels with different surface coatings for use with a variety of media from oils to watercolors. Today we're going to talk about Aquabord, Ampersand surface for water media. This amazing surface for watercolor is acid-free and it works similarly to a cold press watercolor paper. However, there are some differences. Colors remain much more vibrant than on paper because the colors sit on the top of the surface rather than soaking into the paper. Let's take a look at one of these Karen Vernon pieces I brought with me today. Take a look at all the oranges and yellows. See how brightly they pop off this surface. I also want you to note all of the layers of colors that she stacked, one right on top of the other. And then you can see how she's come back and lifted back to those colors underneath, to these yellows and even to these bright whites here. On Aquabord, you can stack and stack layers of color, and you can come back and lift back to layers of white underneath. Now, when you're finished with your piece, you can frame it without glass. Just as Karen has done here with this piece, she sealed it and framed it without glass. Now, I want to show you a short demo with a few techniques on Aquabord. You can sketch right on the Aquabord surface just like paper and use regular art erasers to adjust your sketch. Very similar to the way you work on paper. But before you start working on Aquabord, you need to flush the board. Now, what do I mean by that? You want to take a watercolor brush, a flat brush, and just lay washes of water across the surface, maybe a couple of layers, and then you want to let it just sit and get a little bit dry, damp to the touch. Now, as you do this, you're probably going to experience some small little air bubbles coming up from the surface. This is very natural to the Aquabord. It's basically the way of the board opening up to accept pigment. Now I'm going to set this aside, and we have another one ready here to accept the watercolor. This is already kind of damp. On Aquabord, you can actually work wet into wet or wet into dry. So we're just going to add some color here so you can see what you can do with the board. Again, wet into dry. Or you can come in and add these wonderful washes of color and let your seamless washes be created right on the board, mixing in the color right on the board. Now, you can also stack many layers of color and glazes, but the key, however, is to let each layer dry before adding another color. We've prepped a board with some colors already stacked one on top of the other that we're going to demonstrate for you. So again, all of these layers of colors are dry. We're just going to come back in with another color on top and just show you how you can come back into the surface and drop in your color, and you're not moving any of the underlying layers that are already dry. Now we're going to show you a little leaf that we've created so you can see the magic of lifting. What you want to do when you're going to lift, you want to use a stiff brush, one that sort of sits at the top of the edge of your finger instead of actually pushing, because that'll help you lift better. So all you want to do is dip your brush into the water and come back in and start lifting. We're going to lift all the veins out of this leaf. Now what you want to do is you want to take color off of the board. So you want to take the color off, and you want to have a paper towel next to you so you can block the color that you're taking off of the surface. I'm going to go ahead and finish this, and then we'll come back and put a glaze on top. So now we're ready to actually lay another smooth glaze on top of this, but before I do, I wanted to show you a little trick. You can take a stiff bristle brush, and if you want to clean up edges, it's so easy on Aquabord. You can come by, dip it in water, and let's see these areas where we put a little too much color in there. I can come back and just scrub the color out and pull it right out. Remember, depositing onto the paper towel. And then now we're able to add our glaze on top to smooth out the surface. So we're just going to add a nice little mix here. This kind of evens out your layers and your lifting and evens out your piece. So that's the beauty of Aquabord. You can just layer color, remove, stack color on top of it, remove, and you create all these wonderful, fabulous textures and light in your painting. So now we're ready to seal it and frame without glass. Now what we have found that works the best so far on Aquabord is the Krylon 1311 fixative or the Golding UVLS varnishes work really well for sealing the surface. So if you've not tried Aquabord and you really enjoy watercolors or are just beginning, this is a great surface. Give it a try.